This is a how-to guide on a subsidising positive production externalities. So how to draw that on a graph. So what we have here is, let's say it's staff training again. We have the free market point, so where PE and QE are, where the supply equals demands, that's the free market equilibrium. But we want to get to the socially optimum point here, where social costs equals social benefit, and where we can take advantage of the most amount of potential welfare gain we could get if actually we just produced a higher amount of quantity here. So the government steps in and says, well, we're going to help you then produce even more. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a subsidy. Remember, subsidy is just money directly given to the firm, so that reduces its costs. If you reduce a firm's costs, their supply line is going to shift outwards. So it's MPC plus subsidy there. So the supply line is shifted to the right, and so now we need to find the new equilibrium point. So we go from the supply line, the new supply line, the MPC line plus subsidy, where the old demand line is, because the demand line doesn't change, and we find here the new equilibrium. So as you can see, the subsidy has worked. There is a higher quantity being produced in the market, and there is a cheaper price, a P1 and Q1. But we now need to actually say, okay, well, that's fine, the quantity's gone up and the price gone down a little bit, but how much was the subsidy? So what was the actual value of the subsidy from the government? Well, what we need to do for that is we need to go from the new equilibrium point and say, well, we can work out the subsidy given to the firm by going to the firm's old supply line without the subsidy. So they go back to the old supply line, and we can say, well, that then is the subsidy that was given to them. Because if they were to produce this amount of quantity without the subsidy, this would be their cost. So we know the government subsidises their cost to this point. So it's this line here. So what we do then is we go across to the price axes, and we say, well, that's the P2 was the subsidy given, and P1 was the subsidy given. So what we say is, if this whole value here was a subsidy, we can say this entire box here is the subsidy given to the firm. So that's a subsidy given to the firm, but we know that the firm does pass on some of those subsidies, some of those cost savings to the consumer. So the price difference then, so the price difference from PE to P1, so the price has got less, so it's cost less for consumers to buy it. That there is what the consumers get. So consumers gain the price difference because the price is lower, and the producers get the difference. So simply put, the consumers get the price difference in the subsidy, and the producers get the rest there. So the producers get the rest. So the producers gain some, and so do the consumers. But the whole box here, P1 to P2, all the way to the old supply line and the new supply line, that entire box is the value of the whole subsidy given by the government. So what happens to the actual potential welfare triangle then? Well, we can say, well, we know it's reduced because there's more quantity being produced now in the market. So we go from the socially optimum point here, because we're still not at the socially optimum point, where MSC equals MSB is the social optimum point. We're still not there because we haven't subsidised the entire amount. Then we go to the old line. We go to the MPC plus subsidy line, and we say, well, there is still here a triangle that we still aren't taking advantage of. So the new triangle, I'm just going to call it, but it's the new potential welfare gain triangle. So it's a lot smaller than it was before. That old triangle was massive, but now with a subsidy we still have a potential welfare gain to take advantage of if we subsidise even further, but in reality, similar with taxes, you're never going to get an entire subsidy for everything because it would just be too costly. So it's better to draw it like this, and we can show what consumers and producers gain from it in terms of price differences, and the welfare triangle difference, and the entire subsidy given by the government to the firm as well. So overall, higher quantity then with a subsidy, Q1, and a cheaper price, P1 in the market as well.